but you're 100% messing up. If you if you block on wake up, that should be a mix up. Like you're mixing them up by blocking. 9 out of 10 times you should not be blocking.
Melty Blood is a game with an incredibly high amount of defensive options. So if you don't know what you're doing, it could feel that the game is just way too strong on defense and not enough offense, which is not true. There's a lot of offensive options and a lot of offensive options that beat a lot of defensive options in general. And I'm going to go through all of the universal ones in the game. There's about 9 main defensive options in the game, and give you scenarios for both universally throughout the cast and a couple of like unique scenarios that you can do with your own characters. So let's get started, right? So I will show off with Shiki since he is my main character, and he's a good character to show off how to defeat the defensive option, because as a character himself, he doesn't really have any tricks. He's not like a Miyako or a Koma who have like throws and cross-ups and overheads. He kind of is an extremely strong character, don't get me wrong, but falls in line with the mechanics of the game, right? He doesn't have any tricks or anything on offense to open the opponent up. So let's get started, right? The 9 main defensive options in the game are block, throw, mash, high shield, low shield, reversals or DPs, heat, moon drive, and moon skills. Now 9 is a lot, but like I mentioned, there is going to be a few offensive options in the game that are going to beat a lot of those, just 1 or 2 in a way. So let's get started, right? Blocking. Obviously, the basic one, the forbidden option, you might say, in the Melty Blood. Not a lot of people block, especially on net play. You're going to see a lot of people doing a lot of other stuff like shields and heat and moon drive, stuff like that. But blocking is a very powerful mechanic in this game. There isn't that many characters with like super fast, unreactable stuff, right? Especially someone like Shiki, right? Like he has a really good air dash, but overall, he doesn't really have a lot to open you up with. So how do you beat block, right? If you're playing a character like Shiki or a character that doesn't have like a wide variety of like super fast offensive options, right? So of course, one of them is throw, right? Throw, of course, is unblockable. Another one is if you are playing a character with an unblockable, like Shiki's Charge 5C. And of course, these gives you hit, right? This also does the unblockable itself does 2k, the throw does 1500. But the one thing in this game, right, starting from blocking, is that you can create fear in them. Obviously, they don't want to block forever. No one wants to block forever. There are some scenarios where things get scary, especially like if I start faking air dashes into going low, or like doing stagger strings, right? They might be scared of the throw. They might be scared of the charged overhead, or excuse me, charge unblockable. So the basic fundamental string in the game, right, that every character has possession of is something like this, right? So it's like 2A, 2B, 2C, 5A, right? Every character in the game has a different scenario of that. Obviously, you can add more stuff to it. You can do all A, right? You can add a 5C2. You can do 2C, 5C with 5A, right? Reverse beat stuff. So this little thing, especially on block, is going to create all types of layers in your offense, right? So this is kind of the bread and butter string that will lead to all kinds of offensive options, right? And of course, depending on our characters, some buttons can change. You might just do this, right? You might do this. You have to play around with it. But for blocking, of course, they don't want to be blocking forever. So like stagger strings, doing this, right? They could be scared of like if they want to jump, if they might mash low shield, which means you go overhead, right? There's a whole bunch of different things you can do off of that one string that will defeat blocking. So yeah, throws, of course, and unblockable normals if you have them, or command throws in general, will defeat blocking straight up. But it's the extra layer that makes blocking good but scary in the game, that people don't want to do it all the time. So let's talk about throws real briefly, right? Throws in the game, of course, beat other throws, right? I throw and they throw, I get a tech, right? In this game, if you know how throws work, if I tech the throw, so if I do something like this, right? I get this window where I am plus. I don't know exactly the number, but you are technically plus. If they tech the throw, they are plus. That's how throws work in the game. The thing about throws, obviously, you have this dash startup. It's kind of proximity because if I'm up here, he's not going to run up all the way, right? He only runs up until he's about throw distance, and then they throw. So if I'm up here already, he'll just throw. But if I'm far, he will do the run-up throw. Throws in this game have really, really low recovery on them, especially. So like if, let's say a situation that she is jumping, right? If she is jumping, see how low recovery I have on throw? Throws are an extremely powerful tool on offense in this game because of this, right? In a situation where, like, let's say she jumps out, let's say she does, instead of ground throw, she just back jumps, right? Let's say, like, I'm... Right? Yeah, you could punish me here, but she is basically having to mash throw. And by the time she's already jumping back or jumping forward or whatever, I'm already recovered, essentially. My throws are terrible. Right? I've already recovered. And throws beat a lot of things in this game, so keep in mind in throws, it's very, very strong. Let's talk about mash, okay? Mash is another way, simple thing to beat, but is a little tricky in the game because you have shield, which seems to be more common to use instead of just straight up mashing. Mashing is used quite a bit, but for example, right, unblock. Like, let's say if I'm waiting for shield, right, I just need to do low shield and then I block, right? Low mash is good, but there is some downsides to it. Like, let's say if I do something like this, like obviously staggers and stuff like this, like the basic string I'm doing, is not going to be a straight up low 2A, but let's say I do low 2B, right? Depending on your character, you can obviously whip punish things, right? And let's say like I just do something like this. Let's say I do C, right? Let's say they want to catch me. Well, okay, arc weights 2C might be not a good one to test on. Let's try let's try stance C. Oh, maybe not stance C, but probably not the best buttons to be using. But other characters, let's say if they're 2Cs like Shiki, right? If I was Shiki and I were to air dash over it, it would just straight up hit. But Arc's 2C is really good. It depends on the character, of course. But 2C kind of hits pretty high. But main ways of going through mash, right? Of course, staggering. Staggering those lows, or just those hits in general, right? Easy way to beat mash. Even on A's. Pretty basic fighting game stuff. Another way to beat mash, obviously, throws are not going to work. But... yeah. Charged unblockables have class strings on them. So even on moon skills, which we'll talk about in a little bit, they also do lose to them. And some normals too. Some normals obviously can clash, of course. So basic ways, obviously, stagger your strings. So it goes right back to this string, right? So either you can do something like this, stagger, right? And depending on your character, you can hit him with the 2 low. So like something like this. Go into a full combo. Or you can just do straight up staggers. Start something early, right? And this would make them scared, right? Because they think, oh, they're going to stagger you. You can go for overhead. You can go for throws. Right? So... easy way to beat mash. Pretty standard stuff. So now let's go into shielding, right? Shielding is tricky. Shielding is very powerful in the game, of course. So how do you beat shields, right? What's the best way to beat shields? Let's start with crouch shield. The crouch shield is probably the more powerful version, right? Crouch shield, obviously beating lows and beating mids in the game, right? This is a mid. It loses. This is also a mid, right? But the charge overhead beats it because it is technically high. You have to shield it high. So one way you can obviously beat it is through unblockables. Again. Another way you can beat it, throws, yet again, right? Throws being very, very powerful. Can beat all shields, even high shields, doesn't matter. So that's one way. Obviously another way if they're mashing low shield, right? If they hold it for any longer than the brief period of time, they will lose to the high. I don't know if I can record that exactly. I probably could, actually. Let me do something like this. Let me set up a scenario where I do this. A little bit longer than the actual normal duration. So if I were to do my basic string that I've showed you, obviously just beats it. If they were to hold it just briefly, it wouldn't win. So let's say if I just did it just like this, right? Let's say if I just recorded crouch shields, shortest amount of duration time, right? So if I do something like this, well, it does punish it if you're fast enough. But if you're a little bit slow, they will block it. But they can't do anything out of it, right? You're basically meeting them, so you do retain your offense. So even if you don't punish them, if they just hold it briefly, you will still keep your offense. So obviously throws, right? Throws beat it. Charge and blockables beat the low. You could also wait. The only tricky thing about waiting, right? Here's a tricky thing about waiting for it to go away. If I were to hold it, you can hold it basically indefinitely, right? So if I were to hold it, right? Waiting for that low shield, with the low shield. Ah, they still got me, right? That's the tricky thing about waiting. Because they might let go, but they might not. You can just hold it indefinitely, right? And then you have to play the shield game, whether they're gonna just like do nothing and throw you, or they're gonna do BC, they're gonna do launcher, yada yada. So that's the tricky thing, right? About going low. You can go low if you think they're just holding it for a brief period of time, they're letting go. You could wait. There is a period in time where after they hold it, after a certain period of time, they are in recovery. But it's pretty tricky to get. It's like, it's pretty tight. I'm trying to get it for you guys right now, but it's pretty hard. Like, you're better off, honestly, just going for the high or going for the throw instead of waiting. Unless you, like, they're really, really, like, predictable with it. Like, they just do it, they just hold it for a second and let go. Then you can try to punish. But overall, you're better off just going high, throw, or unblockable yet again. So let's talk about high shield. High shield beats highs and mids. So I will show you. Standing shield. Why is she doing crouch? Oh. That's why. Turn that off. There you go. Alright, so stand shield, right? This is a mid. What's gonna beat it? I don't know if I can record this somehow. Actually, let me just do this. Let me record it as a shield on. There we go. See? Does it just like that. It'll just straight up lose. So how do you beat high shield? Obviously, beating high shield is not too hard because if you go low, it's gonna lose. But that's why crouch shield is a little bit more practical, because most of the time they don't go high and usually they go low, right? Or mid. Because all crouch normals, right? Or at least everyone's 2A is a low. This is why stand shield is a little bit less used, but usually a lot of times stand shield is used for anti-airs, right? So if they see me do this, right, if they think I'm gonna go over, let's say I'm like doing stagger stuff, and I go high, then they'll shield and react to my jumping, right? And of course, Shiki is really good because he does have a really low air dash, but other characters do not, right? Other characters have pretty floaty ones. Arx is like pretty low to the ground too, but like Roa, Coma, Volve too, like really like floaty, long air dashes that have a lot of time to react to. So how do you go through that, right? One way to do it, to deal with it, is of course faking the high and going low, right? Because or like just doing something like this. You can obviously fake them out. So say you do like a, you just go low, right? Or you can just fake it in general and just go low for this. Right? mainly used to react to high or jump ins most of the time. So obviously faking it and using your charge C, right, is one easy way to bait it. And then just going low. Or you could just do this. You can fake it. It's an extra layer, right? It's not super practical to be doing that. But if they're like constantly going for high shield, just baiting it just straight up by just faking a jump normal and throwing, or faking the jump normal and just going low is your best bet, in my opinion. So let's talk about DPs, right? DPs, kind of similar vein in mashing. The only thing for DPs is you definitely want to have a punish on hand, right? You want to make sure you have a nice punish on hand, because a lot of the time there are quite a few DPs in the game that cross sides, right? So like, let's say you put them in the corner, and look, you see it too far. You think it's like a normal DP where they just land in front of you. A lot of characters have different variations of DPs, right? So for her, obviously you want to have a run-up punish ready. So you want to have like a good, nice, like fat punish ready for it. Okay, you want to have a good punish ready for it. So be careful with DPs. Obviously, baiting them is the best bet. You can obviously shield them too. If you like, if you know they're gonna do it, like you could react with shield and then get a punish like that. Get some extra moon gauge for it too, which is not bad. But obviously blocking them or shielding them is the best bet. Just be sure to know how far they go off their DPs. Is right. Don't whiff, don't whiff a normal. Then you just don't get the punish, right? So be aware of like how their DPs work in general. All right, let's talk about heat. Heat. There's two different heats in the game. Obviously, there's the one on block you can do. So I will show you. Or I forgot what it's called in this game. It's called different technically. Forced release, right? So obviously there's the one on block, and then there's the quick one, right? So when they're out of block stun, they do like this, right? If they are in block, okay. So the other one, right? We've showed the first one, which is like on quick if they're not on block stun. If they're in block stun, this is kind of like slow release. So let's do it with this one. This one's a little bit easier to understand. So the basic rule for most characters, Shiki has a little bit of privilege in this, is that lights, if you do lights and they are to force release, you can always shield them on reaction, right? Any light. Right? Even if you're like whipping crazy, right? You can always recover in time to shield them. And you get a fat punish, of course, right? So you could be mashing 2A like crazy and react to it. Mediums, for the most part, most characters cannot do it, right? Shiki has a privilege in his 5B, is that he's able to do this. If I can do it. There we go, got it. So he can do B and then also react to force release. Most characters cannot do this. I cannot do this off my 2B. My 2B, I can't do this. This 2B is too long. Most characters cannot do this. But A's in general. C's, you cannot. It's impossible. There's no C in the game that recovers fast enough for you able to block and then also shield, right? So if you're playing Shiki, congrats, you can do this, which is extremely powerful. But for most characters, right, your A's are your best bet. If you feel like they're going to do force release on block, just like kind of stagger out and then just react on block. What do you do on wake up, right? So they say if they do this, right? Obviously you can't put them in block stun immediately. So like, how do you deal with the very fast one? So if you don't know, there's an option select against this, right? Every character in the game can do this, which is 2A, 2BD, right? So if I were to put her in block, all right, let's put her in block without that happening. So let's do this. If I were to 2BD, this would happen, right? Ignore her. So I would just get the button on block, right? 2A, 2B comes out. But let's say if they were to do this, let's say if I were to put her on the ground, I would get this. This option select beats wake ups, wake up heat, wake up, whatever it's called, force release. So it is 2A, 2BD on wake up, right? And then you get a full punish, right? Very, very strong. one of the easiest basic option selects you should learn in the game. Everyone should do this option select. It is extremely powerful. Please do it. So that's how you beat it, right? A's, unless you're Shiki, you can do 5B. On block key, right? On wake ups, everyone in the game has access to 2A, 2BD. That's how you beat heat in general. If you're in the air and you do it, you can also beat it like. You can also option select this on block too. So let's say like you do like a jump in. You can still do this option select. So if they were to do nothing, why am my brain's not working? There we go. If I were to just do the option select and they don't do it, I would just get 2A, 2B. Right. Another way you can do it, if they block it first off of a jump in and then try to heat, you can still do the option select there too. But overall, you can just kind of react to it, honestly. It's if you're just doing A's and you think they're going to do it, you can just do it off of that. Right. You can obviously, like, you could hard bait it too, like, by just holding shield, but for the most part, the option selects are a little bit better to do. It's just safer. Alright, let's talk about Moondrive. Moondrive. How do you beat Moondrive? So there's a basic way to do it. So let's talk about Moondrive in general. Like, how does Moondrive work exactly? So Moondrive, of course, stops the game. You gain some invul frames. I don't know exactly how much. Let me get to Moondrive first. Moondrive. How do I beat Moondrive? So the basic thing out of Moondrive is, of course, Moondrive, Moonscale, right? It's pretty much the basic bread and butter. How do I beat that exactly? How do you do that? How do you deal with that? So the basic way to deal with that. Okay, let's try that. I wish I knew how to record this better, but I don't. There it is, right? Moondrive, Moonskill. Very, very powerful. How do you deal with it? Obviously on knockdown, right? You could throw them because they're not frame 1 invul or anything like that. So you can just straight up throw the moves. They have startup. But it's pretty not strong, right? Very not strong. The other big thing in Moondrive is this, right? So like, if I were to do this, right? Say if I like run up, I'm just gonna throw somebody, they're just gonna attack, right? It's pretty easy to deal with. So Moondrive is very, very powerful. Probably the most powerful option in the game defensively, right? So how do you deal with it exactly? So if they were the best scenario to do, if you don't have access to Moondrive, so the best scenario if you have Moondrive is to Moondrive their Moondrive, right? You eliminate the RPS from you. You can obviously try to meaty them, and then if you see it, you eliminate the RPS. Right? Scrawt has made a video on this. If you want to check him out, I'll put a link in the video below. He describes it way better than I could, to be honest. But what if you don't have Moondrive, right? If you don't have Moondrive, you can do this layer. I'm not going to record the whole thing because it's very hard. So take my word for it. It's tricky to do, but it is pretty powerful option against it. So the way I deal with it if I don't have it is I would meaty 5B, right? Meaty 5B, it obviously is going to beat mash on a button and it's going to beat throw, right? So if you see meaty 5B, right? If you fuck it up, you're going to get thrown. So I'll definitely practice this, right? Delay 5B meaty beats the Moondrive if they try to throw me, right? What if they shield me, right? Let's say if they shield me. Okay, I want to say I did it right there. We'll see what happens. Okay. Okay, let's take my word for it, right? I would get shielded. So what happens if they shield me? Obviously, they could BC me or anything like that. If this were to happen, right, one way to get around these two options, let's say they do the throw and I win. I can do, let me remove this for now. I could do the OS, which is if you hold B and C and they shield you, you automatically get the BC follow-up. So if I were to do this, let's turn this off. Turn this off. So if I were to do shield, right, and they were to do, let's say A, so do A launcher, right? You see how I'm not, look at my button inputs, right? I'm holding it. I automatically get the BC follow no matter what. So one way to do this is, so the immediate option would be to do this, right? Let's say I throw them, I were to meaty B, I would immediately B and then hold down back C, right? And then I would just react to there. Because if they were to shield me, I would automatically get the BC follow-up, right? This is if you have the bar. If you don't, you get the B follow-up. I would automatically have the bar, I would BC, I would get out of the scenario as best I can. Right? What if they were to moonscale me? Right? Say if they were to moonscale me, like the first option. Obviously, throws beat moonscale, but throw's not a great option. You could use it, but it's not the best. What is the third layer to this? What if they moondrive me? Moondrive me into moonscale, right? You can jump cancel on the clash frames and get a full punish. Because if you shield an EX or a moonscale, right, they can't jump cancel, even on the DPs. So that is the way, that is the third layer into the offense, right? So let's review, right? If I throw them and I know they're going to do moondrive, I meaty 5B. If they throw me, I meaty 5B, I get a hit, I get the combo. If I meaty 5B, they shield me, I would still OS, right? I would OS regardless if I get the hit or not, just doing 5B down 2C. So if they shield me, I do the moonskill, or I do the BC follow-up off the shield. If I see they moonskill me, I will do jump cancel, right? Jump D, right? I get a full punish. That is a three-way layer that I've come up with that will beat moondrives. If you do not have moondrive yourself, right? It's difficult to do. I've been practicing it. There could be better ways of doing this, but it is one way to beat the three most common scenarios that happen in moondrive, right? Which is throw, shield, or even mash. Like throw and mash, technically. Throw and mash, shield, and moonskills. Moondrive moonskills, right? So those are the 9 different scenarios that happen on defense and ways to beat them generally. So let's talk about overall gameplay. Like, what is like your fundamental thing? I've given you the tools, but what should you know exactly, right? Let's talk general game plan stuff, right? Now that I've given you kind of some basic answers to pretty much every scenario, or at least the most common scenarios defensively in the game, what should you do on defense? How do you apply these things, right? So generally, this is a pretty general rule in fighting game, and this is more of a skill, right? You have to learn this. This isn't like, I will tell you this, but it's something you're gonna have to practice on your own. And it's quite important in this game because of how many defensive options are available to you. And is that you want to be picking offensive options that are around the defensive options of your opponent, right? So for example, if they were to low shield here, they're constantly low shielding. Instead of running up and going into 2A, you want to run up and do air dash, or run up and throw, right? Or run up and do unblockable, right? You want to be doing things against your opponent's defensive options, right? Duh. But this is harder than obviously what it make it out to be. This is a skill you have to learn, and it's something you will have to practice, especially if you're new to fighting games. It seems so easy on paper, but it definitely is quite difficult to do. You want to be constantly monitoring like what they pick, especially early on. There are a couple things, especially in this game, I think you should establish in your offense game early. And one of them is throw. You definitely want to be using throw early into the match, so they have to think about that extra layer, right? The purpose of your offense should always be, of course, to counter their defensive options, but also presenting options on the table that are hard to deal with, right? Like throw, like the unblockable, right? Like the staggers, like staying really close to your opponent with the staggers, and then threatening air dash. You want to give your opponent a lot of things to think about during the match, so then they have to constantly be thinking like, should I low shield, should I high shield, maybe he's gonna throw me right now, right? And then the more you make your opponent think on defense, the harder it's gonna be in this game, especially because there's so many defensive options. So like there's a lot of them, but they have to pick them too. So you might have 9 options to deal with, but they have 9 options to pick, right? So it goes hand in hand. It's not just all, I'm just going to do this one thing and it beats everything, right? Like there's a lot of different ways to get around defense, and there's a lot of things that they have to pick, right? So in my opinion, especially early on, really gather your throw game, because throw does beat a lot of stuff. It beats low shield, it beats moon skills if you're really close up, it beats blocking, of course, right? So throw is very important, and stagger is very important in my opinion as well. And then obviously knowing the option selects, right? So knowing the 2A, 2BD, of course, understanding like if you're doing lights on block and you think they're gonna heat, right? obviously sticking to lights for your pressure for now until they start popping the heat, and then of course you can shield and get the full punish. So just some key things to keep in mind when you are developing offense situations, right? Obviously get around the opponent's defensive options, what they're picking. Obviously pick the opposite of how to beat it, and then present things on the table that are hard to deal with, especially early on in a match. So they have to have more options to think about on their defense, right? That's it for me. This video is quite long. I wanted to keep it under 20 minutes, so it's probably not going to be with editing. I got to edit some stuff out here and there, but hopefully you guys enjoyed. And next up will probably be a Shiki guide, and then a Shiki advanced guide, and then a Roa basic guide. And then we'll take it from there. I've been pretty busy with work and moving currently. Well, I'm kind of finished moving now, so hopefully, you know, I get stuff together. We can get a couple more videos that are a little bit more like in depth like this, because I definitely want to bring out some more things that are a little more like, you know, a little more meaty on them, right? A little more fun, informative stuff, and not just kind of like some basic video things, right? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。